Business Takeout presents
The Cocktale Hour with L.A. Wade.
Welcome everyone to the Cocktale Hour. I'm your girl, L.A. Wade, and today I get to be coached by none other than Keith Grays. Give it up, everybody. I wish I had a live audience, you know? No, I appreciate the clap for yourself.
Right.
How are you today?
I am well, thank you. I'm very well. I appreciate you asking. And you?
I told you, I'm starving. Like, I'm telling you, I need food and I need it fast. So this hour, as much as I want to talk to you, I want to be fed. You understand?
I do understand that. Let's just get your mind off of it.
Well, okay, yes, because this is
There
a
you go.
show. This is actually a show that talks about thirst. I figure thirst and hunger, it's the same kind of thing. And so what it is I'm thirsting and hungering for actual physical food, but I always want to ask people about their journey of thirst. So we're going to get to that. But first, how rude. I want to also shout out Business Takeout. They do amazing jobs here in Toronto, where they empower and educate entrepreneurs and inspire Black wealth. So you're a Black entrepreneur, right? You look like you are.
That's right.
But you're not in Toronto, and that's okay. You are in Atlanta. Tell us, who is Keith Grays from Atlanta?
Oh man, Keith Grays. That's a loaded question.
Yes.
How about I keep it simple? So, a husband of 17 years, a husband of 19 years, father of a 17-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son.
It's a lot. You need to take a breath. You even missed 2 years of your life from that whole experience.
I didn't I? I hope I don't get in trouble from that one.
You will not. You corrected yourself. I think owning yourself is a part of having a good marriage. So self-accountability.
Absolutely.
Which I'm sure we'll touch a little bit about that. So married for 19 years. How old your daughter?
17.
17.
Just turned 17 on Valentine's Day. Had a Valentine's baby.
Belated, my love. Happy belated. And then your son is 15?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay, so that is not all of who you are, I don't think.
That's not all of who I am. You're right. That's a big part of who I am. The other part, man, there's so many layers that I imagine we'll get through some of them here during our time together.
Well, let me ask you this. In terms of your foundation, you mentioned, being a husband and being a father. Is that, and I think I read somewhere, or I spoke with you earlier about your spirituality. Would you call that the foundation of Keith?
That is the foundation of Keith. Being connected to God, giving the praise for who I am, and really, here we go. So speaking of who I am, I was just editing my book, which I'm hopefully going to finish this spring. But I'm a soul.
Your soul.
All souls first. Before we arrived in our mother's womb, we were a soul, and that's who we are. We just happen to have these bodies that they call our temples and whatnot. And there's a mission that I was sent here, or missions that I'm sent here to do, that I do through my passions, which gives me my purpose. So,
your passions give you your purpose.
Right.
Okay, so let's take a little journey through some of these passions and how it ended up becoming a part of your purpose.
Man, so I don't believe that we actually choose our passions, right? Like,
really?
My liking of basketball as a teenager, I didn't necessarily choose it. I just got a chance to do it, and I loved it, and I excelled at it.
Okay, so let's break that. I'm sorry, I'm in that real philosophical, let me take things step by step kind of. I change my mood up. Depends on what I'm drinking, you know what I'm saying? But
I feel you.
Yeah, today I'm not drinking anything. Today I'm just drinking water today. So so you say that again. You just said something really important that was in my mind about choosing passion. Choosing passion versus having an experience that ends up becoming something you enjoy, that you will repeat so therefore becomes a passion, and sometimes that passion becomes a part of your purpose. Is that
Yeah,
getting
yeah, but so like when you think about something that you're passionate about, right? It's something that you feel in your belly. You know
yeah.
what I mean? You feel it in your center and you're moved by it and it causes you to dig into it. So, seeing people win is a passion of mine. So going somewhere and running into somebody that maybe has a problem or issue or whatever, something they want to talk about, I'm very passionate about people and seeing them win. When someone is not having a good day and they want to share that with me, I love being the person that people feel that they could come to speak to. Um, as a matter of fact, two people introduced themselves to me this morning at the gym for whatever reason.
For the light that shines around you, you have the
Okay.
force.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, my family says I have stickers on my back saying "Come talk to me" or whatever, and maybe that's true, and I just don't see them. Maybe they put them on my back before I leave. But uh, seeing people win, seeing people excel, um, helping people through the gifts that I have, helping people understand who they are better, that moves me. And those things are passions of mine, and I feel them in my belly. So when I
Okay,
have a go ahead.
but following your logic now,
Mhm.
something must have happened for you to have that experience of being there, being that person for someone to go to, that would then become something that you enjoyed. So you started to like make yourself available in a maybe inadvertently in the subconscious level and attracted people towards you. Like, let's take your passion is not a choice, it's chooses you
Okay,
situation.
okay.
And then tell me about the people that just would start talking to you, as if you were chosen. So if that was your passion, it chose you, and then you had an experience of that, and then you chose it back.
Okay, that's good. I like that. You chose it back. That's good. Um, yeah.
Well, you have to
So
choose it back. That's how you show love.
absolutely, absolutely. So I'll say one of the first times that I really recognized um, someone valuing me, not necessarily knowing what it was about me, but valuing me. I started getting older people coming up to me asking me for advice. That after I would give it, I didn't know where the information came from. Just this wisdom, right?
Wisdom.
And yeah, and one of the things that I asked God when I was younger was for wisdom, right?
Me too. I used to pray for knowledge, wisdom, and understanding constantly.
Yeah.
And like, oh my gosh, and I put this out there saying, by wanting knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, I didn't realize that that was going to send my life into a flippin' tailspin trying to but that's how you get knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
That's the thing. And really, I think over the course of the period of the last 3 or 4 years, I've in my own mind just adopted just the fact that the things that I go through aren't necessarily for me. They are for me, and I need to go through them and so on and so forth. But these stories are not just for me. Like there's a realm of influence that I have,
Hmm.
that these stories are to be shared with those people and whomever has the ear to hear, right? Um, I can't remember what the actual statement was, but years ago, basketball star Charles Barkley, he was basically people were telling him, "You're a leader, you should act different," and so on. So he was like, "I'm not a leader, and it's not my
Oh,
responsibility to be a
yes.
leader," and all that, right? And I think for each of us, um, we all have gifts that we can lead with. We all have something that we're a 10 in that, honestly, in my opinion, we're all responsible to make the world a better place with those gifts, those talents, with our passions. Otherwise, why are we here?
So you're saying that you got the call to be a role model and you answered it. And Charles Barkley got the same call, but he denied it.
Well, I guess this was a little different. It was kind of public, but
Because it chose him,
but
he
yes,
didn't choose it
but
back,
yes, correct,
right?
absolutely,
But he did show
absolutely,
you choose basketball and did well in what he did choose.
yes, that is correct. That is
Okay.
correct.
Okay. So let's learn about little Keith. you're from
Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida. Tell me about Jacksonville, Florida, and Little Keith.
Ooh. So we moved there when I was 3. I was born in St. Louis, Missouri.
Ooh,
But
you
I
know
was
what I
3.
know about St. Louis is
Mhm.
what's
The
that called?
arch, the gateway to the West. Yeah.
Right? Okay, the gateway to the West, but also the highest gonorrhea rate across the nation. Random
So
facts. I don't know why I know that. I hadn't
I,
been to St. Louis, and I'm kind of proud to say that right now.
I, I hope my family's not watching this.
No, but those are the
St.
two
Louis
things that I
family.
know about St. Louis. So you didn't
Okay.
stay there anyway, so it doesn't matter.
So they're gonna task me with helping you to come up with a different, like, first thought of St. Louis. You know what I mean?
Yes, teach me. Tell me one.
Yeah. How about just the arch, the
Oh,
gateway to the West? Yeah.
gateway to the West.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we'll stick with that. And they got a pretty good baseball team, the Cardinals. They
Don't
win
get me
that
started.
world championships from time to time. So
Yeah, well, so have the
yes,
Blue
you're
Jays.
and your Blue Jays.
Yeah,
Yes,
we went back to back. Can you say that?
yeah, but my Braves are champs right now. Yeah.
Don't get me started with baseball.
Yeah, I see.
Yes. Okay,
Um,
Jacksonville,
so
Florida. Little Keith.
Jacksonville. Oh my goodness, so much to say. I love the city, so close to the water. I miss the water, but um, man. So let me share a little bit about how we got there.
Okay. How old were you?
I was 3.
3. Okay.
3. Yes.
This
And
is
so, like, there's the best part of my story is the beginning of the story before I was born. So my parents were raised in the projects, Pruitt-Igoe projects. For anybody listening that knows anything about Pruitt-Igoe and Cabrini Green, which is in Chicago, those were like the two, from what I understand, two of the hardest projects in the country.
I see.
My dad saw his sister killed, shot there, and um,
Wow.
so many things happened. Anyway, long story short, he decided he was going to get out. He joined the military, came back, got into retail, working for a company called Montgomery Ward, for anybody that remembers Montgomery Ward and the Ventures. Um, but he eventually opened his own business. He had a couple of shoe stores. Can you imagine that? A kid out of the projects in the 70s had his own stores, like multiple
Wow.
stores. So in all that, he ended up getting transferred from it was Montgomery Ward. That's how he ended up in Jacksonville. So I always need to tell that part of my story because a lot of who my dad is from the mindset of future thinking and the entrepreneurship and getting out, doing better, it came from him. The nurturing side came from my mom. She was a huge supporter of my father, and so on and so forth, right?
Mhm.
Um, but Jacksonville, I'm still learning things about Jacksonville. Matter of fact, I just a couple years ago found out that just south of Jacksonville is a city called St. Augustine. I'm sure you've heard of St. Augustine, right? Ponce de Leon, and so on and so forth. So the end of the civil rights movement in the 60s ended because of something that happened in St. Augustine.
What?
There
We're
were
having a real live Black History moment on the last day of
on
Black
the last day of
Stop
Black
the
History.
madness. Bring it on. Let's hear it.
And so they were marching, and there were some white people that were in the group, and they tried to check into this hotel. They wouldn't let them check into the hotel. They wanted to get
White
into the
people or the
school.
Black people?
Black people did. So they're
Okay.
like, "No, you can't check in here," so on and so forth,
Right.
right? So this one white guy, he checks into the hotel and invites all his friends over,
The
all the
white
black
guy
people.
invited all of his friends over.
Yeah,
What
the black
was
people, all
what?
the black people that were marching.
Okay. Those were his friends. Okay. Let's
Yeah,
just
he was marching with them, right?
I see.
So a bunch of black people get in the pool. The owner of the hotel came out and started pouring acid in the pool.
What?
Right. So he happened to be like the president of tourism or something like
Acid
that for the
company?
state of Florida. What's that? What's
Acid to populate a pool. That's a lot.
yeah. So of course everybody gets out of the pool. The news comes out and it is world news. All the news for the civil rights movement was national news up until this point. When it became world news, that's when it became a problem. And
Oh,
that, like 2 weeks after that happened, it was signed.
what was signed?
The civil rights bill.
Okay, you have to teach. We're
Yeah,
from Canada, so you're teaching us.
gotcha. That's right. That's right.
I
So
know.
yeah, like
Am I going to get in trouble if I say no? I'm not going to say it. I'm going to learn my lesson after the whole St. Louis conversation. Go on.
so anyway, um, when I got older, we lived in white neighborhoods. And when we would leave to go play with our neighbors, our parents would always say, watch out for the white kids, be careful with the white people, watch your back, and so on and so forth. I never understood what that meant until I got older. But because of what they knew from their background, they share that with us. Never as a kid, I never had any problems with any
In
other.
Jacksonville, Florida, you didn't have any racist interactions?
No, no.
That's
I
surprising
Not
because
that not that I knew of, right? So there might have been some underlying kind of things going on that I didn't know about.
right.
But for the most part, like everybody I went to school with, like we football team, everybody, we were good.
Wow.
Um, so that was a big part of living in Jacksonville and trying to understand what my parents meant when I left the house every day. Um, they did not know that there were plenty of white people that weren't racist.
Right. They didn't know that. That wasn't their reality.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. And so, like me, my brother, my sister, I'm the baby.
Mhm.
Um,
I'll have to have
we
a conversation with your wife about what that means for her.
well, she's the only child, so it's
Oh,
like
okay.
yeah. We're a couple brats,
Well,
right?
it's a beautiful
So
thing.
so we get to spoil each other, I suppose. Um, but yeah, so that kind of framed um, the way that I moved in Jacksonville, the way that I did my thing in Jacksonville. Um, it's a beautiful city. They always seemed like it always seemed like they were 10 years behind. So like in 97, it felt like we were in 87 because people were still wearing Jerry curls and mullets.
Oh,
You know what a
okay.
mullet haircut is?
I sure do. So
Okay,
short
yeah.
on the top,
Yeah, yeah.
long on the back.
Right. So it was like, oh man, this is backwards and slow. Then I moved to Atlanta and it's like, whoa, there's a lot of progressive people here. There's a lot of black people that have money here. Everywhere you look, if you're driving around, normally you just see white people and see a black person every now and then, in Jacksonville. When I moved here, it was like a whole different, it was like an experience. Let me just say that. And
Okay.
I moved here in the early 90s when, you know, uh, So Def was a big deal with Jermaine Dupri, and
Okay.
you would find Puff Daddy coming down all the time. Back when he was called Puff Daddy, before Biggie came out and all of that. But I think I've gotten way off track. But yeah, that's
Not really. I mean, I find that like the reason why I do the show in the way that I do it is that interviews tend to go a very particular way. And sometimes you can feel like, well, they have really great advice, but who is that person? And
sure.
so we don't realize how much our experiences make us who we are.
Mhm.
And so, I would ask a very important question like, was it Prince or Michael Jackson for you? And because that is important to me and I want to know. And that during that time that you grew up, you know, Prince versus Michael Jackson was a thing. So we're in the stage of who are you, Keith? Are you a Prince guy or a Michael Jackson guy?
I am a Michael Jackson guy, but I've grown to appreciate Prince way more. So, like, I had the whole Jerry curl thing back in '84. I swore I looked like Michael Jackson, but there's a one picture that I have. My mom's got it at her house, and I hope it does not get distributed of me with the Jerry curl, not looking like Michael Jackson.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I'm a Michael Jackson guy.
Was it a Michael Jackson thing because you looked like him, or was it a Michael Jackson thing because you just preferred his music?
Prefer the music.
You did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a very hard time deciding between Prince and Michael Jackson myself, but ultimately I ended up being a Michael Jackson person because Well, I just thought he was adorable, even with his Jerry curl. And then he started to change colors, and then I didn't feel the same way anymore. And I think that's when I more so transitioned fully into Prince. So yeah,
Okay.
as an older person, I got more into Prince. Younger, I was into Michael Jackson.
Yeah, 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 me too. Like in his music, the fact that Michael Jackson's a great entertainer. Like you can't beat his entertainment.
Right.
But music, Prince is genius.
Prince
He's
is,
genius.
yeah, he was
And
a,
we share a birthday. So like that's even, that
oh,
makes
okay.
even
So you feel,
even better.
I'm surprised you after learning that he wasn't your favorite. Okay. What I wanted to know right now is you're a life coach, and there's a series of events, like you're saying, it kind of chooses you and then you have to choose it back. So what were some of the things that led you to know? Was it the fact that everybody would want to talk to you and that's how you knew that this could be something that you would do? How did you become a life coach?
You know, so when I started college, and this is a quick story, I started as a computer science major. Then I found out how much math I had to take, and I said, "Oh, nope, let me go take this business with everybody else." So your freshman year here, uh, I'm assuming at every college, at least most, you have to take psychology 101. I took psychology 101, and I fell in love with just the whole thought, even of psychology.
Right.
But I said I should major in psychology. There was two things wrong with that in my mind at the time. One, it's in the science building. All the smart people in the science building. I'm not like I don't consider myself, even to this day, a smart person. I consider myself very intelligent because I can take concepts and make real life out of it, right? Versus just kind of being book smart. And so I was intimidated by building E. That was the letter of the building. And so between that and I guess another excuse that I had was that only girls take psychology.
Really?
So yeah, why didn't you go? So anyway,
Right. There's other motivations there, right?
yeah, I know. I don't know. Maybe I didn't want to fail class in front of a bunch of women. I don't know. But moving forward, just getting into the church. I'm a Christian, and studying the Word and understanding the Word, but still having like this desire to understand how the Word works with people from a really scientific standpoint, and like how the mind works along with all this, the rituals or whatever it is that you kind of go through,
Sure.
and helping people through the Word. Like that's really what uh, kind of drove me to want to help people more because I was able to help people through the
Would you
Word.
say that that's the type of, because I'm assuming there's different types of life coaches, and I know that coaching is different than therapy or counseling. So could you talk a little bit about that in terms of your own practice?
So, as far as me having like the practice of spirituality and that type of thing, it's not specific to that. Although we do talk about it, I find out what a person's belief is. I have people that are not Christians. I have people that don't believe, that are my clients. So, we roll however we roll. My main focus is the person's mind, really, and how it's connected to their soul. Now, if you don't believe you have a soul, we're not going to be a good fit,
What are
right?
you
It's
gonna
not,
do?
right.
So do
So
you deny some certain people from being a client if there's
I
not that
wouldn't
kind of
deny
scene?
them, but I let them know that here's what I believe and here's kind of how I coach. So if you want to make a change in your life, we're going to talk about your soul's purpose or your soul's purposes or your mission and your passions, which I believe all comes from your soul that you were delivered here by God.
Right.
Like, right. And so for people that don't believe that element, the God element, the soul element, when I say that to them in a session, they're going to disconnect. And I let people know that, you know. And I have other friends that are life coaches that don't believe, you know, that we
Yeah.
have souls, and they kind of help me with like, okay, you might not want to, and here's how you want to maybe guide them, and I can send them to my peers.
Sure. Is this like your full-time profession? Because I would think that there must have been a period in time when, sometimes people want your advice, but they don't want to necessarily pay you to work with them. I know this because I'm a go-to person in my own circle, and I haven't received very much
Sure.
money for the efforts that I put forth, you know?
Yeah. So today it's not my full time thing. I am a teacher,
Oh,
um,
I see.
but and I actually end up with some opportunities to coach people, through my profession. But my long term goal is to be a full time life coach, um, speaker, book writer. Like it's my retirement plan. Like I want to sit on the beach, have a house on the beach, and coach people.
Have you
Yeah,
ever read the book, The Suitcase Entrepreneur?
I have not.
It's by a white woman named Natalie Sisson, I believe was her name.
Okay.
And she really helps people understand what they need to do within a framework to be able to be a full-time entrepreneur, and that you can do this essentially, if you want to, from anywhere in the world,
Right.
which is what caught my attention. So that's why I read it. But I got the opportunity to hear her speak. And one thing that stood out to me that she did was, when we look at all of our bills for a month, she started to look at her skill sets to say, what can I do or sell about myself that can be broken down over, a certain amount of people over a certain amount of time to reach this goal of how much she needs for the month to live off of. So she
Mhm.
did like one-on-one coaching, she hosted a seminar, and she provided all of these free resources that were online that can help people do those kind of things. So I offer that not only to you, but to all of our other entrepreneurs that are watching,
Mhm.
because it's such a great resource to think in that way instead of thinking of the actual physical outcome versus, I want to help the world. Yes, as entrepreneurs, we all want to help the world, but we also want to eat. Like me, when I'm feeling hungry, this is what I go in. This is my best time to create, because this is where I create something that
Yep.
will fill my hunger.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I just get hungry. So do you have an ideal client? Like, tell us who your ideal client is, and hopefully they're watching and they can say, oh, I got to work with this guy.
So it's tough because I have a specific um, client base that comes to me, but I also have a client, not a client base that I really want, and another one that has this need. So I'll go to the one that like has this need first. That
Yes.
it's this 18 to 25-year-old Gen Z um, group to
Male?
mentor them.
Males?
I'm sorry, males. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
males. Okay.
Um, and then the next group that I really want to serve as for a life coach is your 35 to 50-year-old men.
Mm.
But the crowd that I generally get is your 35 to 50-year-old woman.
Oh, you attract the women. Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
do you think, as a black man, do you think that there's something about a man's experience that would lend to why they wouldn't do it?
Um, I think for anyone, the answer is the same.
Okay.
It's the value that they see in the product that they could get, right?
Hmm.
So if someone told you that they wanted to charge you $500 an hour for sessions, right? And let's say your goal was to be a millionaire, and
Yes.
they charged you this $500 an hour, and you did it once a month, but you were able to see this growth between the months that show you that you can probably maybe in the next 6 to 12 months, maybe 18 months, I can be a millionaire as an entrepreneur.
Right.
So that's the value of a good life coach should be able to create a living, not necessarily charge you $500 an hour. There are those clients though, but
Trust me, then my life coach must be my lawyer because that's what they get. There's a lot of money that gets, but you have to prioritize. I think that's what you're saying. Are you
like
saying
if you're gonna have a life coach, you can't play around because you're gonna waste that coach's time and you're gonna waste your time, and that's all we've got, right? So if you have assignments, and which is we're almost more so accountability partners than anything. I think a lot of people think we're therapists or psychologists and that sort of thing. And sometimes we'll do if we're licensed, we'll do some of those things. But our job is to really help keep you on task and partner with you to the completion of whatever it is that you want done.
right?
You know? So like for me, I'm a self-awareness life coach. So I help people to understand who the heck they are, their purposes, their passions, um, and they kind of walk them through emotional intelligence pillars. So you have self-awareness, you have um, self-regulation, you have motivation, you have empathy, and you have social awareness. And these are five things that I don't like to generalize, but I'm going to say a vast majority of people do not have.
Yeah.
And I think that is our world, not just our society, our world's problem. Because everybody's so worried about what other people are doing and not thinking about
Yeah.
how maybe they're affecting someone. You know, like yesterday I was driving and I was getting over in a lane. This guy was in my blind spot and I kind of got over and I looked and, I moved back
Yeah.
over and he comes and pulls up next to me.
And he's
And
very
like, and looking, yeah, he's in this big old pickup truck, right? Down here in Georgia. And so I ended up getting behind him and he brake texted me.
Whoa.
Like, dude, I didn't see you in my blind spot. So
Don't you wish? I wish I could teleport that information to people sometimes when you generally make a mistake. But
right.
yeah,
So in my mind, in my human mind, I'm thinking, oh, I'm about to run this guy off the road. Although I got my whole family in the car, right? But in my soul is like, you know what? Maybe this guy, there's something going on with him. Maybe these last 2 years have been hard. And maybe he's that way anyway. But you know what? It's none of my business. So being able to self-regulate in that particular situation and knowing myself and backing off, that makes life a little bit easier. I was able to come home.
yeah,
I didn't, you know what I mean?
I
And
do. I don't know. I think
it's the same
that,
thing with like business and those types of things.
yeah, I think about your 18 to 24-year-old clients versus the 30 to whatever the other
Okay,
end is,
sure.
and how self-regulation is becoming a learned thing within the 18 to 24-year-old. I mean, a man's brain isn't fully developed actually until he's at least 25. So, in terms of coaching them, how do you bump up with not only that psychological aspect or the anatomical decision that their brain hasn't even been formulated yet, versus also their environment. Not everybody grew up with both of their parents, a loving mother. There's so many different aspects of people's experiences that stop them from showing up for a coach, but yet you can see that they need the coach,
Right.
right? So
Right.
how do you deal with that?
So like for them, it's more of a mentoring thing, right? I'm just here to listen to you, ask you
Don't you
about
try charging them for mentorship?
yourself.
No. Okay, good. Tell me. And so
I mean,
people out there shouldn't feel bad for that.
right? They're not gonna have the money to pay, first of all. But because they are who they are, you went to that group for a reason. Why did you go to that 18 to 25-year-old group?
Because
Why was
I can see that they are grasping at straws. They need guidance. They're afraid, but they're not too proud to say that they're afraid. They haven't learned how to be fully authentic and transparent yet. They don't even know what it means, really. So when I think of them as clients, and meeting people where they are, I just wonder how you journey them through those experiences and those thoughts. And like I said, not well, but their brain isn't fully developed. And if they're traumatized, or if there's trauma involved and they're only operating from the reptilian brain, then there's even more problems because to help them ground, I guess, would be a technique I get to help them. I'm just brainstorming. You're the expert. But you obviously pinpoint something within 18 to 24 that you recognize that's needed.
Yeah. So like everything that you said,
Yeah.
right? And having a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old that, they're almost in that group, right?
Yeah.
I recognize that all these kids, and you can go back to 5-year-olds, 3-year-olds. When I was 3, when you were 3, they know way more than we did. So can you imagine a kid that's had a phone or an iPad in their hands for 15 years, 17 years, 20 years, and only God knows what information that they've gotten, but it was way more information than we ever had. So like a 15-year-old probably has the same information that we had when we were in college.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
true.
you talked about knowledge, understanding, and wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And without all three of those, when you just have that knowledge, just like you said, you're lost.
You're
And
lost.
you're picking at straws. Like you said, you're picking at straws. And so I just want to give back to them, pay backwards, I guess,
Yeah.
an ear.
An ear.
Just an ear. So like there's a young man that I talked to over the weekend. And it was the greatest conversation about, I don't want to say about nothing because we talked about each other's passions and so on and so forth.
Sure.
But it meant the world to him to have somebody that just listened. And then, throw a nugget here, throw a nugget there. I'm not
So
here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to like listen to you and maybe give you a little pointer here or there. Yeah.
do you think that you can feel successful with those good conversations? Because a lot of people may or may not see the show, or I talk to lots of people, you talk to a lot of people, where we have these moments of just amazing conversations, and so much knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is exchanged in those moments. But then it's like it's finished, and then it's kind of like, okay, wow, that was really great. But how do we translate that into being successful people?
hmm So for that age group, it's hard to quantify that because what I'm doing, I am coaching them, like kind of, because I'm asking questions, and that's all I do when I'm coaching a client. I'm asking you about you, and I'm
Right.
collecting information, and again, the intellect, I'm putting things together to ask the right next question. Right? That's what good coaches do. That's what yours does for you, right? So it's the same thing uh, in just helping them think through things and to help them have the a little bit more understanding of some of that knowledge that they have so they can make wise decisions. You can't purposely make a wise decision without having an understanding. So I'm trying to be that middle piece that helps them to understand how the world really works or how it can work um, for their benefit. And also as a parent, like being able to tell them, hey, we're all struggling. So, I tell my kids, I tell them all the time, we're trying to do the best that we can do.
Right.
And in all transparency, I tell them, I said, your job when you leave this house, the first thing you need to do is find out what your childhood issue is and fix it.
Mm-hmm. To how they oh man, I can't even imagine sending somebody off with those kind of thoughts without like a plan. So definitely a follow-up would be required.
Well, we have those kind of conversations all the time, but one thing that we both know about society is people think that they're fine when they're really not, or
Yeah.
they're in denial. And so, as a good father, my job is to help them to understand that it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay not okay. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But how do you differentiate between the father mentor and the businessman coach?
Well, certain things like that, I probably wouldn't tell a mentor. I mean, a mentee. I
You
wouldn't
wouldn't tell them what?
necessarily the same level of information that I would tell my children. Um,
So what is the structure of what a, because you are a life coach,
mhm.
you do it for a living as well as teaching.
Mhm.
So what does the business aspect of life coaching look like for you versus the mentoring aspect?
Uh, rephrase that question for me.
Okay. So with mentors, you don't really get paid for it, or maybe you do. I don't know how they pay. Like it could, there's a different way of paying for something, cash, barter. I don't know how you structure your business. I guess that's what I'm asking is how do you structure your business as a life coach when a lot of it might be spent with people who can't really afford to pay for what you do? Because I can tell the passion for what you do, but does that translate into you being able to sustain yourself, and what's needed to do it?
Well, I
You know?
mean, if you're grown and you have a job, you're gonna pay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, people who want to do this as a business, like how do you set up the payment structure of being a mentor versus being a coach?
So, payment structure for mentoring, and you're in that 18 to 25-year-old range, and you barely have bills, and the bills that you have, you can barely pay. I wouldn't charge them. I don't charge them, right?
Okay. So
Um,
well, what is the structure then? So how do they show up? Because people, do you believe in the concept that if you don't pay for something, you won't appreciate it? So how
I
do they,
I
okay, so
do.
how does that work in the mentorship aspect for you?
You know, it's kind of a gamble, and even when people are paying, it's a gamble because oftentimes they won't show up, and they still have to pay, but it's still a gamble. Um, so yeah, like with it for me, for that younger group, I believe they're worth my time.
Hmm.
The value of seeing someone get some understanding, the understanding that I didn't get when I was at their age, for me, it's priceless. Totally priceless. Now, for someone that's older and hasn't um, owned their, um, I'm trying to think of a good word. Well, if I could say it, someone that hasn't owned their shit,
Yes,
garbage from the past. Excuse
yes.
my French for anybody that might have been offended, but that is the person that I'm looking for to actually pay for the services.
Hmm.
Because if you've gone 35 years, 40 years, 50 years without trying to fix yourself, without trying to make yourself better, chances are if you don't pay, you're not gonna you won't see the value in it.
Yeah, I feel like a message for entrepreneurs is to also identify who is worth taking those risks with. And do you have a kind of a list or things that you notice about people that you say, this person needs my attention and I recognize that they can't pay, but they have these attributes? What are the attributes we should look for in people that we want to invest in that can't necessarily pay you back right away?
Um, you know, that's an excellent question. Because it's hard to know a person's true situation, right?
Yeah.
Because they're trying to sell at the same time as you are, right? They're trying to sell that, I'm barely making it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll give like a one or two session kind of thing. And once I do that, well, before I do that, I'll let them know, like, you get these two sessions. Here's what we'll do for these two sessions, and then after that, this payment, I give them the price uh, per session, and they decide what they want to do. So
Mhm.
it's hard to like look at somebody or have a conversation with somebody and say, okay, yeah, you need X, Y, and Z. Now, if I do get a chance to coach a person and learn a little bit more of their background and that sort of thing, maybe I'll, continue to help them out. But at the end of the day, to your point, um, in order for me to sustain, folks they have to pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
did a post trying to kind of the switch, but not really. You did a post the other day with Odom, the football player. He was like,
Oh,
he was
no, Beckham. Uh-huh.
yeah, right. So underneath, you talked about creating a positive map for the future. What does a positive map for the future entail?
Um, and so it's a map to just a map to the future. So basically, it's the paradigm shift, right?
It's the
So
paradigm shift.
paradigm shift, like a mind shift. So, for instance, my dad in the project kid, running the streets, doing whatever, right?
Yes.
He wanted something different. There was a paradigm shift somewhere, some kind of way. There was a
Right.
paradigm shift for him to go from the projects to one of the whitest areas in Jacksonville, Florida.
Right. Right.
Because he wanted something different for his family, and he that just the projects wasn't it. Um, so the map to your future is it takes self awareness, and it takes knowing where you want to go and what you want to do.
Or at least what you want it to feel like, or you know.
And you can stop right there. You can. I'm sorry for pointing all up in the camera the whole time.
It's okay.
So one of the things that I say all the time to people when I'm having just general conversations about whatever, you see it on my post if you read my post, the word feel means so much. Like if you look up the word believe, one of the words in believe is to feel.
Yes.
And like when people tell me they believe in whatever, like, but do you feel it? Are you just
So
saying
it's
that?
pretty obvious they don't feel what they believe.
Right. And so, like, creating a map to the future, one of the things that I would say about that is it takes a lot of visualization exercise and feeling what you're seeing in those visualization exercises to the point that your brain is really almost firing as if you're doing it. They did that in the Olympics, was that in the 80s and the 90s for track, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they hooked their brains up to computers or whatever.
Oh yes,
And
I
they
remember that.
Okay, yeah, and their brains were firing as if they were actually doing the event.
Yes.
And so, you know, that sort of thing is important because we tend to run after feelings or run away from feelings. So like that person that you want to date or that person that you dated back in the day, you enjoyed the experience, but it didn't work out. But there are certain parts of that experience that you enjoyed.
Right.
You're gonna chase those feelings,
The thirst,
right?
the thirsty AF stuff. I know. I know about it. Thank
Or
goodness I'm
or
sanctified with the water of the
there
Lord.
you go, there you go.
I'm no longer
Or
thirsty.
the hunger, right? There's you want to get rid of that hunger that you have, and there's certain kind of food that you want to fill that void,
Right. Right.
So creating a map to the future might be tacos for you here in the next hour or whatever, you know.
Hey, this is a wonderful suggestion. Yes. No, but I understand what you mean. And to the Christian reference, bread man shall not eat by bread alone. So I might be physically hungry, but this conversation, until you just said it again, stopped me from even thinking about hunger. No, because there's a different type of thing that's I'm feeding. And I thought about it when you were talking about your early years and how, and then we were focusing a little bit on the 18 to 24-year-olds. They don't know that yet, I think. They don't recognize that they're able to feed themselves with things that are not physical or outside of themselves. And I think we as people do a disjustice to them because we raise them to kind of externalize who they are as people. Even mommy and daddy becomes like a form of worship because of our own narcissism or something. I don't know, but they don't recognize. We don't teach them how to recognize the love within themselves in order for them to not rely externally. They'll always know that they can do it no matter how hard it is, if they recognize that it comes from them. But I leave it to you coaches to be able to show us what can we do to bring that person along the way to that realization that it's in them.
And you're talking about young people, right?
Young people.
Again?
I mean, any people really, because there's some old people that are still stuck in the young times.
Sure. And it's all, it works to me, in my opinion, it works the same for everybody.
Yes.
So like I said, for these young people, I ask them questions. I'm a curious person,
Hey,
right?
give me 2 minutes of coaching. Hi, Coach Keith. I really want to. I don't know if I should date or if I should stay single.
Okay. Have you dated before?
Have I dated before?
Yes.
Well, I was married for 16 years and then I got divorced, and now I want to start dating again, but I'm unsure of what it should look like.
Okay. So why do you want to date again?
I want to date again because I'm a very outgoing person that loves to go on adventures, and I like to share those experiences with you. Because I'll be out there, I'll do it myself, but I'm like, hey, oh, there's no one there anymore to tell them. So
Sure.
It's fun and everything, but I think it would be more fun with someone else.
Sure. So tell me about the adventures that you have or that you want to have.
I love to go hiking. I'm a kayaker. I love to go to sporting events, music events. I love to, travel and meet new people and just talk to random people in a cafe, which seems taboo these days because you're like, you want to make sure that they're all good. But I still, this is why I do the show, is because I really enjoy the exchange that people, I love reciprocity. So I'm a lover of life and a giver. So I want some of that back because I never realized that I could emanate and attract that at the same time. But this is where I am now in my life.
Okay. And so you want to share all of that with someone.
Yeah, I think I do. I'm not sure because, like I said, I can do it by myself. And I enjoy doing, if I ask somebody to come with me somewhere and they can't, I still will just go and do it myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So give me an example of, and maybe you have something in your mind, an example of an outing that you would have with the ideal person, not necessarily putting a face or a name to it, but just like, what's the experience like? And what do you get out of the experience?
Yeah, what I want out of the experience is to feel seen, cared for. I want to be considered in if you know me, how do you represent that in our date? What did you do to help me know that you know me? That's what I want. That's a really good realization because I never had that really before. So your coaching kind of works. It gives you the question. The questions are awesome. But also, I'm a very self-aware individual because of all the work I've done on myself. So it's not really kind of fair because most people don't. I mean, I don't know what they know from. We do have the information within us, but we don't exercise it enough to utilize it.
That's the thing. One of the things I say is we help people think.
Think how people think?
We help people.
Oh, we help people think. Yes, that's what I do. That's what I do.
Right. And so and that's why it's just questions. It's just questions. And if there's an experience that like you as a coach have been through, right? You'll throw a little nugget out there. Have you ever thought about X, Y, and Z? Right.
Right.
It's got to be at the right time and all that type of stuff. But
if your coaching is about having the person become self-aware, I can see how those questions would help me become self-aware. But then how do you get them to the actual doing what they are now aware of? There's another.
Sure, it depends on the area that you're coaching, right? So it could be career, it could be personal, it could be relationships, it could be, you name it, right? And
what
so
would be my first step as homework to go out and find this situation that I've just described as an example?
Well, we got way more questions to go through because your question is, should I date or not?
Right.
Like we've gotten to the point. It's like, okay, here's what it would here's what it looks like. I'd probably try to get into like, okay, well, tell me how it feels,
Mm.
and why do you want that feeling?
The Cocktails with LA show is different than the Cocktale Hour, so we can't do that. But they keep confusing me.
Got it.
We'll have that. We'll do that show later.
You're a paid client. You got to pay for that.
Exactly. Well, listen, I want to transition to something that I should have done a little earlier, but so be it. We're slow starters. There's no time limits here. Well, there are, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. I want to call this segment of the show Word. And the reason why I want to call it Word is because I'm going to say a word and I want you to tell me the first thing or sentence or whatever that comes to your mind after you hear the word.
Okay.
Are you ready, Coach?
I think so. We're about to find out.
Okay. Music.
Raphael Sadiq.
Ooh. So I may stop on certain things, but I know the time. So we're going to leave it because I'm going to go to one where you answer in a different way and I'll see where I go with it. Okay. The second word, Raphael Sadiq. I love Raphael Sadiq. Okay. Duality.
Black and white.
Black and white. People? Situations? What situations are black and white?
Just in general.
Oh, it's not enough. Okay, fine.
So go ahead.
Okay, fine. We'll just leave duality for now. Challenge.
Love.
Love is the other word after challenge.
So like the word that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. 19 years of marriage, huh?
No.
I think you and your wife should play this game when we're all done. That's your homework.
A lot of people struggle with that.
Love being a challenge.
I love love. I like to challenge people to love, to be able to give themselves to love.
Okay, that makes more sense now to me. Okay.
I'm not playing fair. That's what this is.
Motivation.
Self-awareness.
Can you explain that? Motivation is self-awareness?
You have to have self-awareness to have motivation. Well, to purposely intrinsic motivation, like which a lot of us don't have. Like that's one of the things that I try to coach people. And intrinsic motivation, you have to be self-aware of those things that move you. And those things are like your passions.
I am gonna really, that might become a weed thought. That's a interesting, I want to just look at that from all different angles. That one, self-awareness as motivation. Okay. Purpose. You thought these were going to be, fun words like blue.
Yeah. The sky.
Purpose is the word.
I'm trying not to be cliche in the things that I say.
You don't have to say the word.
Mission.
Winning.
Everything.
Curiosity. It doesn't have to be one word.
Man, it's rare. It's curiosity.
Rare.
Yeah.
Sad but true. Passion.
My center.
Your center.
My center.
Boundaries.
Outside the box.
Authenticity.
I have to use that word love again.
Love, yes, I don't think you can have love without authenticity. That's one.
Here, I'll use the word trust.
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 I agree.
Or even vulnerability.
Okay, and you've used this word already, but visualization. And as a segue to the end of our conversation, as you think about it, I want you to think about it in terms of what you want your lasting legacy to be, what you kind of thirst for, and then tell me what visualization is for you.
I would probably use the word legacy.
To explain visualization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're talking about creating a map to the future, and I know what my purpose is and my mission is, and I know where I want to go,
Yeah.
and I can see it, I can feel it, I can actually be there before I'm 95, thinking back on the,
Yeah.
20 million people I've coached over the years. That's legacy.
There we go. Well, thank you, Coach Keith, for being in the Cocktale Hour. How can people reach you?
Well, you can go to my website, www.yourstorylived.com.
Right.
On Facebook and Instagram, I'm at Your Story Life Coaching.
Yeah.
You can find me both of those three ways. Yeah.
Well, amazing. I wish you all the best with the finishing of your book. Maybe you can come back on when you have your book and we can sit together. I'll be happy to read it and share with my viewers what I think about it and the parts you put out. And I just want to thank Banky Benjamin and the Business Takeout crew for holding down another cocktail hour. Again, Business Takeout works really hard to promote and educate and inspire Black wealth and Black entrepreneurship. And it's at all stages of your development in those areas. So you don't have to be an expert to be on the show. You can be in progress. And if you have a life coach, you're always in development anyhow. So you're all welcome. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you next Monday for the Cocktail Hour. Thanks, Keith.
If you enjoy our programming and want to help support Black entrepreneurship, please donate today. www.businesstakeout.com/donate.